It has not gone unnoticed over the last couple of years. There's been innumerable comments on all our social media platforms asking after the cargo. So we feel it would be remiss of us to not offer those interested parties some sort of an update.
But before we do, and for the benefit of those watching that have no idea what we're talking about, and those that should know what we're talking about, but it's been that long that they've forgotten, which doesn't include us at all, we should probably have a quick recap. Have you cut to the recap montage yet?
Oh yeah.
Can I make another brew?
Yeah. Roll VT. I've got a deep love and desire for old American pickup trucks. So when Nick called me to come and see a square body up at the farm, I was very excited. Well, that soon waned when confronted with this thing. The idea was to take this 1986 Ford Cargo 7.5 ton ex-library bus and turn it into a hotel on wheels with an internal vehicle transportation section. Easy enough, you might think, but a wagon this size and age threw up some initial challenges that necessitated stripping the whole thing out and getting rid of as much excess weight as possible. With this project, we've swapped the difficulty of shoehorning a quart into a pint pot with the constraint of a maximum weight. In the Mini, every millimetre counted. In the truck, it's going to be every gram. Subsequently, we felt that the venerable old boat anchor of an engine was unsuitable for a number of reasons. 1, it was awful. And 2, it was awful. I know that might seem only like one reason, but it was such a big reason that I thought it deserved mentioning twice. The venerable old Dover 6-cylinder diesel engine was underpowered, staggeringly inefficient, and incredibly heavy. Add to that the bloody awful 4-speed box, and it was clear we needed something better. Something better arrived in another truck. This time, a 2006 DAF LF45 X-Tipper that had reasonable mileage and an even more reasonable price tag. It came with a 4-cylinder, turbocharged diesel engine with more power, more economy, and less weight. So we liberated the donk from its den and set about fitting it into our cargo. More bits were swapped, including some cross members, and we removed the wiring loom from the DAF, as this will be essential to running the Cummins engine. In addition to rescuing the running gear, we decided at that point that the front and rear axles, along with the steering setup and basically everything except for the 2 chassis rails, would be better than what the cargo was supplied with. So we set to stripping everything down and making the necessary modifications to the Ford to accept the Dutch gear. After the front axle got installed, we moved on to the rear axle, which necessitated stripping out the 35-year-old marine ply floor, along with all the crusty old air tanks and the ancillaries that we'd no longer be needing. After a fair bit of jiggery and indeed pokery, the DAF's rear axle got bolted into its new home, attached to the cargo chassis rails. And that's essentially as far as we got.
I don't know where them 2 young fellas nicked our footage from. So what have we managed to achieve since then? Well, due to a couple of time-consuming external influences well outside of our control, sadly not as much as you'd hope. But that's not nothing.
While we haven't created any content-worthy content, we have been working in the background procuring pertinent parts. And for those of you who are big fans of putting axles under trucks, you're in for a treat. The rear axle we inherited from the DAF Tipper was indeed a big improvement on the colossal Ford original, but it had its issues. The casing is leaking, the ratio is a bit short, and as Nick pointed out at the end of part 5, it's not adjustable. So we set about trying to find an upgrade. We couldn't find an air-sprung 7.5 ton axle, but we did find this 12 ton unit that met nearly all our requirements. After being released from the rest of the truck via a gas axe, we spent hours carefully unpicking the air suspension control system to give us the best chance of transplanting it successfully into our cargo. Being from the bigger 12 ton wagon, the hubs have 8 wheel studs and not 6, but we think we can persuade the 2 axles to come together in an understanding that will suit all parties.
So why have you yet to be treated to a scintillating 3rd episode of Putting Axles Under Trucks? Well, that's because we haven't actually fitted it yet. This is still version 2. And you may not be as surprised as we'd like to find out this isn't actually the only thing that we've managed to acquire and thus far failed to fit.
Quite so. We've got these. Ultimately, we'd like the living area to be as comfortable as possible with all the mod cons. But to achieve that, we know we're going to need a proper electrical system, and we don't know anything about off-grid or mobile living.
Thankfully, Paul from Energy Solutions got in touch and not only offered his wealth of experience in the industry, but is also supplying all the gear necessary for us to realise our ambition.
Identifying the areas you'll need help with is important to get the best result, and we couldn't have found a better partner than Paul and his crew at Energy Solutions. They live and breathe this stuff and stock all the very best equipment, so we really couldn't be happier, or more thankful.
This may seem a bit previous, but Paul himself said it's better to look at it than for it. And actually, we really do need to integrate some of this stuff into the chassis at this early stage.
As well as those other two side projects, we've also got a few tricky remedial repairs to do to the cab. And at this point we got to thinking we could probably make all three jobs easier by demounting the body.
Removing the body would also facilitate the replacing of these heavy steel runners with something more lightweight and aluminium. So that's what we started to do. And that's when shit went sideways.
From very early on, we knew that we were going to have to try and fix this upper cab plinth because it's rotten. What we weren't prepared for was what we found elsewhere.
A closer inspection of the area above the plinth revealed a worrying sign. The marine ply is covered on both sides by a thin glass fibre layer, and here it seems that there's very little wood between them. After removing the two cab to body trim panels, things got even more worrying. The passenger side here was showing signs of water ingress to the plywood, making the surface warped in places, but on the driver's side, well, it's absolutely rotten. No better than sawdust in this area. This is a big problem.
Even these isolated areas of rot are going to be really difficult to repair nicely. And we won't know the true scale of the problem until we get into it. But it could be vast. And that led us to ask ourselves a difficult question. While we were prepared to work with the questionable aesthetics, at least for now, and forgive the fact that it's twice the weight of a modern equivalent, is it actually worth carrying on with this body at all?
Dun, dun,